I have way too many games. One of the many benefits of PC gaming is all the incredible deals you can get on games, from Humble Bundle packages to the legendary Steam sales.
Are you ready for a miracle? Raise my hand. Are you ready for a miracle? Set you free. Are you ready? Ready. Are you ready? Ready. Are you ready? Are you ready?
It's easy to rack up a crazy library of games. Unfortunately, this also means that many of those games will never see the light of day. It's actually become a meme in the PC Master Race community. PC player buys a brand new game, only to shove it into their library, never to be seen again. Well, enough is enough. What's up, gamers? This is Lemmy Smash for Corrupt Games, bringing you a new series called Play My Steam Library. Each episode, I'm going to dust off a selection of games from my massive back catalog and see if they're actually worth playing. Afterwards, I'll give each game a grade from A to F, with any surprisingly awesome titles receiving the coveted S grade. The first game in our inaugural episode is Hollow Knight. This title is pretty well known and critically acclaimed, but for me always fell into the cliche of being yet another indie side-scroller featuring a protagonist with a big head. It joins the company of games like Limbo, Inside, Ori and the Blind Forest, Shovel Knight,
Get on with it. Yes, get on with it.
Salt and Sanctuary, Sundered, Rogue Legacy, Child of Light.
Get on with it!
I could go on. As the titular Hollow Knight, you venture into the dark underworld of Hallownest, a maze-like kingdom filled with all sorts of weird bug people. Hollow Knight takes inspiration from the Metroidvania style of games, in that its main area is one big labyrinth, and a good amount of time is spent figuring your way around. It definitely lends itself to long hours of exploration. In my short time, I barely managed to figure out how to get back to the starting town, and get some map upgrades. Combat is a simple one-button affair, but it allowed me to feel just enough confidence to then completely hand me my ass. Taking even a single hit is such an event that I started to feel physically ill every time it happened. Ugh. Oh god! Luckily, Hollow Knight can use the light he gathers to regenerate some health points, but that won't matter when you're fighting something 4 times your size. Hollow Knight earns a grade of A from me because, despite my very brief time playing it, I could sense a huge game lying underneath. This is the kind of game I will definitely come back to in my free time to see how much of the world I can unearth, and then how much of it I can kill. The second game on my list is Icy, or as I like to call it, the game you bought to get a really cheap Steam Link you'd never use. Seriously, I don't even know where mine is. What does Steam Link even do? Regardless, it'd be really easy to assume that a pack-in title like Icy would be bottom barrel quality, but I was pleasantly surprised. Combining animation reminiscent of a Newgrounds Flash game and art assets that mesh anime with science fiction, Icy plays like the coked-up offspring of Devil May Cry and Streets of Rage. Your objective is to kill everything on screen, and Icy makes doing it elegantly as effortless as possible. Mashing combinations of light and heavy attack yields some truly stunning animated violence, and just when the enemy is down to their last bit of health, pressing B does a God of War style execution for all the style points. The story of Icy is more than meets the eye. In fact, there's an apparent meta-narrative as the game reboots itself several times, even calls the player out by name. The official story of the protagonist is given some pretty average narration.
Has no memories, no past. Memories to her are not important. Her existence only serves one purpose: to kill Judas.
To kill Judas. Wait a minute. Sorry. On her quest to kill Judas, Icy must fight her way through a variety of environments and face some pretty daunting bosses, all while the narrator does his best to try and imitate Bastion's progressive storyline style.
A disgusting swamp rests, unmoving, in front of Icy. She must carefully jump across.
It falls a bit short, however, as several times I managed to completely skip entire narrative segments, breaking the illusion.
There seems to be a console that Icy slips off the edge of the cliff.
But I don't imagine Icy's story will pan out to much more than a tale of melodrama and weirdly pseudo-religious villains. The real reason you need to boot up Icy is the incredibly fun combat. I'm giving it an A. The final game on my list today comes from Daedalic Entertainment. Silence is an adventure game with a striking art style that takes place in a fantasy world not entirely unlike Narnia. You play as Noah, an orphan child trying to find his sister Rini. The story begins when the two children are caught in a World War II-style bombing raid and take shelter in a bunker to weather the attack. Noah, in an attempt to keep his sister calm, recounts the story of Silence, a fantasy land with clowns and magic caterpillars. A massive blast shakes the bunker and suddenly the two find themselves in Silence for reals?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say what?
Say
Say.
Rini takes off and is subsequently captured, and Noah must find and rescue her. My first issue with Silence is that it's a point-and-click game. Fans of Daedalic will no doubt have seen this coming, since they have a history of point-and-click games, but with such a rich environment and stunning art design, I felt like a more explorable world would have been a better choice. The game's not even that difficult. Most point-and-click games use moon logic to make even the simplest of problems really complex to solve. Silence, however, featured some pretty simple puzzles in the early stages that I played. The game even allows for hints as to what can be clicked, and I felt that even though this was optional, the system made it way too easy to figure out what I needed to do next. My other problem with this game is the world of Silence itself. The story doesn't explain it well enough. Is Silence a real place? Is it a dream world? The game's beginning section seems to indicate that Noah himself came from Silence, but does that mean that this is all in Noah's head? Is Noah even real?
wake me up inside. Wake me up inside.
Given the lighthearted nature of Silence, I can't imagine the revelation being something that profound. While I do want to find out more about the world and see if the game gets more challenging, it's difficult for me to stay invested when I don't find point-and-click games to be that fun. Silence gets a solid C for me. A fun game with a great art style, just not one that I'll be rushing back to anytime soon.
Get ready for this.